Besides sending the police, you might want to send an ambulance or a hearse.
Hello, everybody. Billy Ho here. And before we get started with the show with David, I just wanted to show you a brief look at my article that I've published. I've put a lot of work in it. It's looking pretty good this week. So let's check it out. All right. As always, it starts up the top with your keep grinding and welcome you to the page. This is where you would click the link to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate you doing that. Click this link to follow me on Twitter. And the next link down will be the two shows. I will post the show with David down here below. This is my open preview show with course preview and players and stats and all that kind of stuff. And I get a lot of it from this particular page. Join the contest link right here. Everything right in front of you. So I just give you a brief overview of the tournament, brief overview of the field. The weather I will update as we get closer, and just a little course overview. Of course, we know about the famous Stadium 16th hole and all that good model stats, some strategy I'm going to add to it. And these are your top players that I mentioned before in the previous video. But as we get down here, I just did a little split screen with the 7K and the 6K range. And I've got a few players in here that I discussed in the video with David, and I'll probably add to it as we go along. So I just wanted to give you guys a look at that before we get the video started. And once again, thanks for watching, and let's get her going. Hello, Billy Ho here, coming at you. Waste Management Phoenix Open, the first big time tournament of the year. Elevated event, $20 million purse on the line, 3.6 milli to the winner, and star-studded field, as I'm sure everybody knows by now. And I'm going to introduce my friend David here. He goes by the DFS Chef on Twitter. How's it going, Dave?
I'm doing good, man. How's it going?
Oh, not bad, not bad. I'm ready to get into this field. Five things before we get started. I've kind of just made this my pet peeve. Subscribe button, smash the like, check out the article, join the contest, and join the Discord. My bad, we got a new member in there, and he pointed out to me that the link that I was providing was no longer valid. So I just found out recently that those links that you do for copy and invite only last 7 days. So I'll be putting a new link in every week. You know, first video, preview video out. I'll pop a new link in there. So if you want to join the Discord, absolutely do so. We're going to have some good conversations. We're already getting some good feedback from our new members. So we're ready to rock. I'm going to share the screen and we're going to get down. All right. First quick question I got for you, Dave, on your model here is Rom and Finau like hot fire for you this week with the red?
No, the red highlight is players that either went to school in Arizona or live in Arizona currently. Like Finau has a home in Scottsdale. Obviously, Ron went to ASU, and then down the board you'll see more guys highlighted in that red
Okay.
color.
Okay. So
So,
that's
so
local ties. I got
yeah,
you.
it's just local ties. I'm sure I might have missed a couple, but those are the ones that came out to me right away.
Okay.
Um, obviously some of them have excellent course history and other ones have kind of spotty
Not
course history.
yeah, not so much. And we'll get into that. We're going to do 9K and up, and there's 17, 18, or about 15 or so. So kick us off, Dave, and just kind of give us a brief synopsis of what you're looking for as far as skill set this week, and then get us going with a handful of the top tier guys.
Yeah, definitely. And any of the people that live in Arizona, I live here. I will be attending the WMPO at least 2 days.
Good.
Probably not Super Bowl Sunday, but I'm probably going to be like Friday, Saturday. So anybody that is happening to go, keep an eye out for me. I might be wearing this shirt or maybe
Yeah.
one of Rick's shirts. So I know Rick's going to be here, so I'll be hooking up with Rick when I see him. So as we get into this, obviously Weisskopf did a redesign, I think back in 2014, and ever since that redesign, we're not seeing the low scoring that this event used to give us. So he's definitely made it a little bit more challenging. Obviously, each and every week we talk about, you know, our stat model strokes gain approach is one of those ones that is very high up in our rankings. Um, Off the tee, we're going to be looking at. I've got good drive percentage because obviously we're talking desert. We're talking, you're going to see a good amount of guys getting into the bunker or some desert vegetation.
Hmm.
So you definitely want to try and keep your ball on the fairway because if you wind up in that desert vegetation, it could cost you, penalty or two. Around the green is going to come into play as well this week. Um, Putting, when you look at the historical numbers for putting, it's really not that difficult of a course. It's one of the most easiest courses for putting. There's not much undulation in the greens. It's pretty flat, so that's why you see a lot of guys that aren't the greatest putters do well here with their putting for the week. Also looking at obviously birdie or better because that's where DK scoring comes in, specifically par five scoring because there are definitely going to be chances for eagles this week. 17 as a drivable par four, and you're going to see a lot of guys going for it. And even if they find themselves in the water on 17, they can still say par on 17. And those that are rewarded and can actually drive the green will have a shot at eagle on a par four on 17. And then because the course is playing more difficult since the redesign, I am looking a little bit at bogey avoidance this week as well. And then when we get into the tiers at 9K and above, obviously the cream of the crop is the local ASU boy in John Rahm.
Hmm.
Uh, at 11K, I mean, it's a stacked field. You can almost treat this as kind of a first major of the year. And that's why the pricing is a little soft because you would think that you would see someone at least close to 12K this week. And at 11K, you can still easily fit them in and still have yourself a solid lineup without any issues at all. Um, the other route, again, is going three guys in a 9K range, and you can probably still avoid uh, getting anyone under 7K. So for me, obviously, Rom's going to be very high up. We haven't seen Rory, at least in the States, for weeks now. He has played, overseas in the DP World Tour. And, when you look at that bets and player pool tab, you can see the cream of the crop is Rory and Rahm. Strokes gained total last 36 rounds. It's 2.84 for Rory, 2.81 for Rahm, and then a significant drop off in strokes gained total. Third is Cantlay at 1.66 strokes gained total over the last 36 rounds. So that you can see that those two are the cream of the crop in the field this week, and that's where you got to look to.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know whether or not I go to Rory because I probably am favoring Rahm. And from early ownership percentage, you can see that most of the people are going the same way. So if you want to get some leverage, yeah, I can definitely understand going to Rory. Uh, at least what Rick's showing, the huge ownership leverage pivot is Scotty Scheffler, the defending champion
Yeah. I'm,
at this course. I
I'm big in
can't
that.
imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine that he's going to be that
No
low owned.
way. No, he's going to even that out.
He's going to creep up.
Hmm.
So, obviously Xander's course history is impeccable. And I might, and I know Kenny started his cash game cornerstones this week with Xander, and I can fully understand and probably even back going to Xander in starting your cash builds because it's $1,000 savings over
Oh
Rom,
yeah.
and it helps you build a more solid build in cash. Home is the one. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about Homa this week, and it's warranted. I mean, Homa's definitely excelled and elevated his game to the next level. But when you get 9,900 and you can spend only $100 more for a guy like Xander, even though Home is
Yeah.
grading out better in my stat model, again only off of 2023 stats. So you still have some guys that have not have the highest sample size, But when I can pay $100 for Xander, who over the long term is a better golfer than Homa, or save $100 to JT, who has amazing course history here, but looking at his recent form's a little shoddy.
Oh
So
gosh, yes.
that's why people are a little hesitant to go to JT. But still, you save $200 to go to Morikawa, who definitely looks like he's back. Um, and then you can save $500 to go to a guy like Cantlay, who had never played here until last year, and then finished T2 here last year. So I'm having a hard time going to Homa this week when I can get those guys and save money, or even spend like $100 more and get someone like Xander. So, for me, it's going to be Rom. It'll be Xander. I'm looking at Morikawa, Cantlay, obviously Sungjae, Tom Kim. You would think would be a great fit for this course. So I'm looking at Tom Kim, and then again, a guy that has a proven track record here, at least from what Rick is showing on early ownership, is Hideki. I mean, the last time we saw Hideki, he finished T9, I think, at the Farmers. He
Mhm.
looked good, and it's a guy that has won here twice, back-to-back years, and then he has a number of top 20, top 10 finishes. So if you can gain ownership leverage with Hideki, I have no issues going to Hideki, but I have to think that his ownership's gonna climb up there as well.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Hideki, I did want to check and see what the early, and this just propagated probably a couple of hours ago. So this is almost like a first look ownership. And I could see Decky coming in. There's so many players here, it's gonna be spread out. I think Rom's gonna give a little bit more to Rory, as people just haven't seen Rory because he's been over at DP, but Rory's been doing Rory things, and probably even better than his normal form. Like he had the 13th in 2021 in his only appearance in recent memory. I mean, Rory goes back to, so he may have played way back in like 2014 or 13 or something, but he's the fit of all fits. He doesn't have to worry about the putting as much. It's a little forgiving, and off the tee game is paramount here. And he's about the best driver of the golf ball, on the entire tour. So I don't see any problem with him coming in here. He'll probably steal a couple percentage points from Rom, I imagine. But if I can keep Scotty around 15 to 16, I would like that, because he was the first guy I noticed up here. He's a guy that can absolutely tear up the par fours, scores in bunches, accurate off the tee. Everything fits. He can get it done around the green if he needs to. He won this tournament last year losing strokes on approach. So that'll just tell you about his tee to green game. And it is a tee to green game. I mean, approach numbers, when I went back looking at it, were not like second shot Pebble Beach type courses. It was guys just knocking it on the green and making putts. And the sweet spot is, like that 10 to 15 foot range. So I'm going to discuss a few guys as we go along, and it just kind of pivot off of, not that I'm disagreeing with anything you said, but just to mention a few more guys. Colin Morikawa fits that mold of a guy that T25 in his only appearance in 2020. He crushed it with the ball striking, but the putter was his undoing, as it is most of the time for him. I believe he lost 4 strokes on the green that year, but he also fares better on slower greens, and these tend to run a little faster. So that is the only drawback I think for Morikawa that I have, but I don't mind him as a core play. I think I'm going to play a little bit more wait and see. Although Matt Fitzpatrick down here does seem to be the lowest owned guy, my first three clicks were Morikawa, M, and Kim, just because that's what it looked like. I could fit 3 9K guys in a lineup and then jump down to 3 7s. So if you're going balanced builds, that's probably where you're going to wind up. But I mean, this Sungjae M, his course history here and the course fit is just on par with him. Fairways and greens, hitting the fade off the tee, fade with the irons. He tears up par fives, and there's only 3 par fives, but there is a de facto fourth par five, which is number 17. So I like him as well. So those guys, and you did mention JT, and it is the driver is the only thing that scares me with him. He absolutely lost it at the Farmers over the weekend with the driver. He didn't know where it was going. I mean, it was he'd cross it over left or he'd spray it right. And of course, Torrey with that rough, he's going to get in a shit ton of trouble. But with this course, it's a little bit easier as long as he's not behind cactuses and whatnot, and getting in that real bad native area. He might be okay. So I will have to see what the ownership's going to be. But if he's up there, I might have to as much as it pains me to say, I might have to veer off of him a little bit. But mainly for this upper tier area, I it's hard to go away from Rom. So I'm really going to have to do some soul searching, if you lack of a better term, up top, because I would just as soon save the 700 and hit Scotty and Xander. So my first impressions are Scotty, Xander in the 5-digit range, and then Kawa, Cantlay, M, and Kim in the 9K range. So moving on into the 8K range, dude, I couldn't wait to look at Cam Young. I think will win this tournament one day. He just has all the tools to get it done. He mashes it off the tee. He's long he can hit irons off the tee here, and I think he'd be just fine the way he hits it. And he's just good across the board. He's a little bit wonky with the putting, but with the forgiveness of the putting here, I think it will be to his benefit. And this is going to be his second time around, so he's kind of going to be used to the whole raucous crowd and whatnot. So I'm digging that. So he's definitely going to be a guy I play a lot of. I think he'll creep up to around 14 or 15 by the time at the week's end. But everything lines up for him. I think I'm going to pass on Spieth, even though he's had good results here in the past. Sam Burns is a guy that I can't quite figure out why he's not better here. I mean, 3 out of 4 cuts, and maybe it's just the setup for him, but it just seems like he would tear it up here. So I'm not really sure what I'll do with him. Thagala obviously could have won it last year, went in the water on 17. I'm going to look into him a little bit more because I don't know if that was just a one-off thing where he just gained a bunch, because he doesn't do it off the tee like I like for this tournament. For the most part, he's long enough, but he's not super accurate, and I guess that's probably why he got away with it last year. So he's going to be a tough one. This whole 8K range is kind of weird for me because, I mean, with Lowry and Fleetwood, Ricky might be an option if he's going to go overlooked at 8K because he won here in 2019. I mean, he kind of got it gifted to him back then, but if he's actually starting to show a little bit more consistency, making cuts and whatnot, 8K for a low owned guy might be the way to go. But this whole range is really got me vexed on what to do because we haven't seen these guys. We haven't really seen Lowry, Fleetwood, or Hatton in any of these events so far this year. If you follow DP, you probably know where they're at. But I wouldn't go to Fleetwood, and I don't think I'm going to be down with Lowry either. But Hatton does seem like he might be a good fit. He's plenty long, plenty accurate, good around the green, and likes Bermuda greens putting wise. So he might be a guy that I'll go to in this range. But I will kick it over to you to get us through the 8Ks and into the 7s.
Yeah, I mean, this 8K range is, like you said, it's something to, leave a question mark at. And I have a feeling many builds this week are just going to completely bypass the 8K range because they want the top end studs and then they can go down into the 7K range. So you most likely are going to get GPP leverage if you play these guys in the 8K range, and it's going to make your lineups different. Obviously Cam Young, like you just said, is going to be someone that wins this tournament one year. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I can definitely see him winning this thing. I mean, he just went overseas and just lost out to Abraham Answer. Yeah, but he looked great. So that's probably going to be the guy that draws the most ownership. Although from early ownership projections on Rick's site, it's Burns. And like you just mentioned,
Yeah.
you look at his course history here. His course history is not good. You would think that he would be a guy that loves this kind of environment with this raucous crowd, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't like that loud, kind of excitement. But and realistically, it only kind of happens at 16.
Yeah.
For the most part, 1 through like 13 or 14, pretty quiet. It's when you start to make your way, like maybe it begins around 14 or 15 and then stays through 16, 17, and 18. But there's nothing like 16, obviously. So maybe he just doesn't like it. Where someone like Tagala seemed to thrive on it, at least last year. I mean, it was the only
Mhm.
played here last year. But for myself, I'm finding it again. I'm finding it hard to go to the 8K range when I can go to that 9K and 9K plus range, and then go down into the sevens. So I'm going to have sprinkles of guys, but I can understand completely fading the 8K range this weekend. And the 8K range has some phenomenal names. It's just, what do you do? And again, if you want to make yourself different, you go to this 8K range, and maybe I will in a lineup in one GPP lineup. I'll make myself different and see what happens. But as we make our way down to the 7K range, you mentioned Ricky, and he seems to have found something. But the guy that, at least to me, is playing better than Ricky is Day. And when I
True.
can get Day, when I can get Day for $100 less, although Day's just like Rory. He hasn't really played here that much either. So and the time that he played here in the last 5 years, he missed the cut. So maybe Day isn't a guy again that likes this atmosphere. Maybe he's playing because he has to meet that obligation. Uh, Kind of like Rory. You have to play these events so many times over so many years. So
Right.
maybe it is a case that Day doesn't like this atmosphere either, and he's doing it just to meet his obligation. So Day for me is probably going to be more of a GPP play if I go there. Um, your boy Billy Ho.
Yeah.
Billy Ho seems to like this event. He's made the cut 5 straight years over the last 5 years. I only go back 5 years. The last time we saw him, he did miss the cut at the Sony, but you can throw that out the window. I think he's a good fit here. Everyone in the industry has been all of a sudden on Keegan, because
Yeah.
Keegan has actually been gaining strokes with the putter. I think 3 of his last 5 tournaments or something like that. So, and we already know what a great ball striker Keegan is. So I can see Keegan, but for me, I'm probably gonna go to the guy at the same price right below him, and that's the Canadian Corey Connors. Because again, when we talk ball striking, Corey Connors is one of the best in the field when we talk ball striking. And when we look at recent form, Connors has seemed to have found it. Now again, and Rick's always pointed this out. Again, Corey is someone that relies on his finishing position for his DK points. He doesn't typically outscore his finishing position. When we talk guys like, I mean, Phil Mickelson was always that guy that we mentioned for guys that can outscore his finishing position, or as Rick used to put it, and I don't think he has it on his model anymore, but MVG, most valuable golfers. Guys that can finish
Right. Yeah.
guys that can
I
finish
remember
down
that.
the board and might place 30th, but in DK scoring, they're in the top 10 despite a 30th place finish in the actual leaderboard. Connors typically is not that guy, but at least for cash, I think Corey Connors is an excellent play. Um, Noren has good course history here, but we just haven't seen him in a while. Last time we saw him was at the Houston Open. He's been playing overseas, and he's been doing quite well overseas. And there
Yeah.
has been some mention about Noren in the industry. When we talk TPC, everyone mentions TPC Lee.
Yeah.
So, KH Lee is someone that you can look at. He had that second place finish. I think he lost in the playoff that year in 2021. Um, Keith Mitchell, I think, is someone that I like at this course this week. I like him, I think, more this week than I did last week. So Mitchell's someone I'm looking at. Brian Harmon, even though he missed the cut the last time we saw him at the Amex, and it's kind of got that same desert vibe going for the Amex as well as here. But I think Harmon is someone that you can go back to. JT Poston, I think, is getting a lot of buzz and chatter in the industry, and I think Poston is someone that is very safe for cash, especially the last time recent form that we're looking at. 21, 21, 21, and then sixth at the Amex. So I think he fits this mold. Um, and then I think, it's kind of a coin flip between, we talk someone that can bomb the ball and is a good putter, Wyndham Clark. But ever since Higo has made that caddy change, and he went back, I think getting some coaching, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, it
from
was
Harmon.
I think it was his swing coach because
Yeah,
I've
swing
heard
coach.
Rick mention that on more than one occasion.
Yeah,
He's
Higo.
had good results. Yeah.
Exactly. Ever since that switch, he seems to have, flipped the switch, and he's really looking good. But for me, and I know Kenny Kim put the tweet out there. I think it was yesterday, talking about the all Korean build again at this particular course. For me, I'm kind of leaning a little bit. It's not going to be all Canadian, because there's not that many Canadians to build a lineup on. But like I mentioned, Connors, to me, Adam Hadwin is very underpriced at 7,100. And when I looked at the 7K range and I saw Hadwin at 71 versus some of these other guys that are priced above him, and he's also made the cut here the last 5 years, going back 5 years in course history, and his recent form, and he seems to be a guy that likes playing in the desert. To me, Adam Hadwin is probably going to be a core play for me. So, I use, 120 max contest to use Rick's core cascading method. For me, I'm finding myself in the 7K range, going to Connors, going to most likely Harmon, and probably Hadwin as three guys in my core.
Yeah, that's funny because I actually just kind of stumbled upon, and I always give him crap because he is such a small dude. But Brian Harmon, I came across him and I'm like, he doesn't fit the mold that I like for this tournament. I want big hitting ball, which he is a little hitting ball striker, I guess, but he actually gains strokes off the tee at this tournament, even though he's not long, which he's longer than I thought he was. And if you go over to his, I like this part about Rick's site is it gives you that distance moniker, which he is. Anybody under 300 is really not a super long hitter, but 296 is not terrible when you're hitting 70% of your fairways and you get your green and regulation percentage up and you're just good across the board. We know he's got short game. We know he can get hot with the putter, but if he can actually hold his own off the tee here, that pretty much explains why he's got 14th and 36. He's got some pretty decent finishes down here along the line. So I am going to definitely look hard at him. Hoagie is the same way. Hoagie can score like a banshee when he gets that putter rolling, and he has turned himself into since the win last year, kind of turned himself into a little bit more of a consistent competitor when they get into these stronger field events. I wonder what people will do with Mav because he seems like he'd be all right here as well, but of course, he really burned everybody last week being uber chalk. But I'm going to jump back up here. You mentioned Billy Ho, and Billy is a guy that's kind of like your cut maker, finishing position guy, like you were discussing. But he can get hot with that putter when he needs to, and he's another guy that's not quite as long off the tee. He was awful at Sony. He hemorrhaged strokes. I think he lost a whole bunch ball striking. So I will, like you, toss that for the ownership because I think he gets in it under 10%. And so he's got a couple of top tens here and he makes cuts. He's a grinder. He gets into it with the crowd. Sometimes he flips them the bird. Sometimes he gets into it with them. So a guy like him, I like. Corey Connors, I think you're right about the finishing position as well. I think he'll just I feel like he's going to give himself enough opportunities, and at 7,700, I think he's 500 or 600 underpriced. Going along with that, KH Lee was one of the first ones I looked at, and I just wonder off the tee if he's going to be what he was in 2021 because he's definitely can slip off the tee. And I'll keep an eye on his ownership as long as it hovers around 6 to 8%. I'll have some interest in him because I think he'll make the cut, and he can get hot with the putter. He's a guy that can score. He's positive in the fantasy points gained. If you look at this fantasy points gain number, I brought it up before. You got guys like Seamus Power, who I don't know that I like here, but guys that get that big time, over two, like Hoagie does, and Harmon and Mitchell. Mitchell was one of the first ones I looked at. It was like Lee, Mitchell, because I told you the three guys, it was Morikawa, Kim, and M. And then I went right down and was looking at Lee, Mitchell, and Russell Henley was the other guy, who I think will do well this week. He's $800 cheaper than he was last year at this time, and he was uber chalk. He was like 25% owned last year. So I don't know what his ownership. I don't know why people aren't looking at him just yet. But these guys right in this range seems like it would be total wheelhouse. And none of them are showing a lot of ownership. But I'll check back with this tomorrow because I absolutely think that we will see some ownership here. A few guys down here. Chris Kirk is playing lights out, back-to-back third places. He's a guy that I think we'll probably have to look at, tee to green guy, but he sometimes doesn't get it done with the putter either. Not real flashy, but guys like JJ Spawn that just hit a bunch of fairways and greens, you can look at. Poston, I'm with you on. He was definitely a guy that that sparked some interest with me. Just its course history in itself is very good, and his recent form aligns very good. So he's a guy that not a lot of people. I mean, that 10% is high for him, in my opinion. I think he's a guy that most people overlook when it comes down to this range. And then you got guys like Higo, and you mentioned Clark. Hadwin is just kind of like Corey Connors light, I guess, if you want a lack of a better term, but he's a guy I like to play too, that makes a lot of cuts. Brendan Todd, a guy that I've had in lineups last week and then weaved off of him, and he made me pay for it big time. He looked really, really good. He's got back-to-back top 30s here for $7,100 for what he can do with the putter and off the tee and with the irons and everything. I don't see any problem playing him if he's going to be like under 5% owned. I don't know how that's going to be possible. But down here a little bit further in the sevens, Taylor Moore was a guy I caught onto last week. Another 15th place finish, last of the cash game cornerstones. So I'm in agreement with him on that. Had him written down. Webb Simpson, no. He did it again last week. Had everybody thinking in like the first 4 holes he was going to do something, and then he fell out again like he's done every tournament. So he's broken. And he's like that printer that you can't get printing, but you haven't thrown away in 3 months. So it's finally just time to just chuck that thing in the garbage. Now, looking down into the 6Ks, I'm not going to get into it too much, and then I'll let Dave finish this off here. But the first couple of guys that stuck out to me were Scott Stallings, 15th last week. Some good results here. Can hit it off the tee pretty solidly. Doesn't need to be accurate. And good with the irons. Can dial in the wedge game. And he's just kind of a good tee to green guy. I don't know about Lipsky, but he wasn't one I was looking at. Hayden Buckley, even though he missed the cut last year, just fits the mold to a tee here. He's long and accurate off the tee. He's pretty good in every other aspect. And I believe a stat that I saw on him, even though he's not completely positive on Bermuda surfaces, he's pretty good from 10 to 15 feet on making putts. And I think that's why he's such a good fantasy scorer. So he's definitely going to be in some lineups. I probably need to give another shot at Sam Ryder. This is just another tournament. Of course, he had the big hole-in-one on Sunday on 16, and the 4th place finish at Farmers, which was a total shocker to me. But he's made every cut the last 4 years and improved his position a little bit. So maybe he will run it back. And the last guy I think I want to mention for now is Johnny Vegas. Got off to a real slow start to the year coming off the shoulder surgery, but gained off the tee at Farmers, looked good with the 25th. He's got some back history here with a 10th place in 2019. So I think he can mash it off the tee. He's always been pretty solid on approach and tee to green game. The putter is just what will be his undoing if he doesn't make it. So Johnny Vegas, especially in the first round, he's not a bad first round leader bet. He's not a bad showdown play in the first round. So I will take a look at some Johnny Vegas. So who you got left over, Dave?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on a lot of these guys that you just mentioned in the 6K range. I'll mention a couple guys that obviously you didn't that I have on my player pool, and that's Russell Knox, who's been continuing to ride a little hot streak, making a good amount of cuts, good course history here. Um, Guy that's long off the tee, that is kind of a boomer bust kind of play, but he's never played here. Callum Tarrant, who's also a pretty good putter for being such a long guy off the tee. Um, I don't know where I'm at with Party Marty. Obviously, he has Arizona history, and Arizona, I believe he went to Arizona State. I'm in agreement with you on Johnny Vegas, and right below him, I don't mind some old man Stewie Sink, who's got some good course history here, and he's actually pretty long off the tee. He's over 300
Oh yeah,
yards off the tee, so I don't mind Stewart Sink. I know that Tambo had mentioned Jaeger, and he calls them Jaeger bombs. But there's
yeah,
already, and I put a tweet out a couple of weeks ago. There's already a guy in the industry that goes by Jaeger bombs. That's Chris Durrell. So Steven Jaeger can't go by Jaeger bombs. You can't call him Jaeger bombs. I'm going to call him Jaeger shots. Okay, so Steven Jaeger, someone obviously who you can possibly look at.
definitely.
Um, this guy's not long off the tee, but he seems to do it in other areas. Another guy that just hasn't played here, but I could see going to him. I mean, he's been playing a lot better than his price because of how strong the field is. I get it, but
Mhm.
Grayson Sig is someone that I don't mind at 6,400. Mark Hubbard at 6,300, who looked good last week. You know, he had the T20, and he's made the cut here. You know, two times that he's played here and had some decent finishes. So I don't mind going to Jaeger. I mean, I'm sorry, to Hubbard if you want to try and really go stars and scrubs. We know that this guy is the spokesperson for this tournament, and
Charlie Hustle.
he had been playing absolute straight garbage, but he actually made the cut last week. So maybe that's some signs of positivity, and he's done fairly well here. So maybe a sprinkle of Charlie Hoffman.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to get there, but possibly a sprinkle. And then uh, the other two guys I was looking at in a stars and scrubs kind of a build. Again, these guys, all you're looking at is just a made cut. Zach Johnson, who has made the cut 4 out of the last 5 years that he's played here, and the year that he missed by a stroke. And then the other guy who's really long off the tee, and he's actually a good putter, is Kevin Tway. And
yeah.
I mentioned it, if you remember, I mentioned Kevin Tway, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, as a possible play at the Farmers, and
Farmers.
he finished at 18th. So I don't mind going to Kevin Tway at 6,300. Again, if you're looking at wanting to play a very stars and scrubs kind of approach, you're going to have to go to these guys under the 7K range, and possibly low sixes if you want to try and really stack three up on top.
Yeah, and there is a lot. That's the thing about this field with the field strength is that you got to stick these guys somewhere. And so you're going to get Mark Hubbards and Ryan Moore. I completely forgot. Uh, really pissed me off with that seventh place finish because he hit this shot on a par five where I thought it was Taylor Moore. So I was rooting for Taylor Moore, and he hit it like it was the second shot in, and it was one of those ones where they dropped the club halfway through it because he thought he double crossed it, and it ends up bouncing and bouncing, and then catching the fringe of the green and running in a big loop all the way down to about 9 foot to the cup and makes the eagle putt, and he parlays that into a seventh place finish. Ryan Moore, not Taylor Moore. All right. We had to cut Dave off there at the tail end, but I appreciate him joining me on the show as always. Great insight, great stat model. Hit him up at the DFS Chef on Twitter, and you can get that stat model for $1 a week, or I think maybe $25 for the year. It's dirt cheap for some really, really great information. So give him a follow on Twitter too while you're at it. And you can follow me at Billy Ho Sports. So until the next time, we will see you soon. Thanks for watching.